Burke's on his feet. He looks up and gives me a grin and says, "Hey dude, you too must be from Marin." Marin County's A-OK, from Tampa, Stinson, all the way to MA. Fresh organic veggies in the market every day.
Welcome to the Run TMC podcast. That is the Run the Marin County podcast, a podcast about basketball based right here in Marin County, California. Very verdant Marin County, California. This time of year, lots of rain, reservoirs are full, everything is green, and today the sun is out and a beautiful winter day. So this is season 3, episode 11 of the Run TMC podcast. I am Duffy Ballard, your co-host. I'm going to turn it over to David Levine in just a moment here to intro this episode, which is a best of 2025. So we looked back at our interviews and our episodes from the latter part of season 2 and the beginning of our season 3 and went through and picked out some snippets and some clips from the interviews that we thought were fun and representative of the year in the podcast. I would say they were perhaps somewhat arbitrary, and we didn't get to every episode of 2025 due to time constraints for editing, and I will wear that as a player control, Dave. Would have been great to snip them all, but we got over half of them, and what you're going to do is tell us a little bit about those episodes that we did not clip from, and then we're going to get into a back and forth with some of our favorite moments from 2025 on the Run TMC podcast. Just listening to these, Dave, we've talked about basketball, but in a very diverse way. We've covered it from a bunch of different angles, a bunch of different personalities, hyper-local, hyper-global, and it remains super fun to talk basketball with you and with our guests. Okay, take it away, Dave.
Thank you, Duffy, and welcome Run TMC to an awesome episode, the best of 2025. Great idea. Like all things in this podcast, all the good ideas and innovations come from Duffy. I'm just the pretty face along for the ride. This is an awesome episode with clips from a bunch of fantastic interviews that we did in calendar year 2025 with a bunch of inspiring and thoughtful guests. We weren't able to provide clips from every interview we did. So in addition to the ones that you will hear in this episode, I thought I'd share a few reminders on other episodes that came out in 2025 that are worth going back and re-listening to. I want to start with 2 episodes that were so good and useful that we re-released both of them. Tasha Jackson, clinical psychotherapist, discussed just the mental approach to sports and performance. She herself was an elite athlete, a high-level tennis player, played in college and beyond. Tasha was great to just talk about, the mental approach to sports. And then Dr. Kelly Starrett, the Supple Leopard, New York Times bestselling author, was kind enough to sit down with us and talk about just the overall approach to being an athlete. So nutrition, movement, sleep, everything. And both of them, such great discussions that we re-released both of them later in the year. Joe and Eileen Burke was our first episode of 2025. It came out in January. And it's funny, feels like we interviewed them 5 years ago. It was like a little over a year ago. Time flies. Joe and Eileen are great. Marin OGs. Joe was a Marin Catholic coach for years. Went to USF with Bill Russell, Casey Jones, and the legendary teams in the 50s. Eileen was mayor of San Anselmo, a very prominent figure in Marin, and they're both just great. That was a very fun discussion. Reed Nottingham, we sat down with Reed to celebrate the 50 years of Pirate Camp, now called Falcon Camp, one of the real Marin institutions. Pete Hayward started that camp when he was Drake coach. And I would venture to say that every high school basketball player in Marin over the years has either gone to Pirate/Falcon Camp or knows somebody who has. It's just had a huge impact on the basketball culture of this county. And we had such a fun time talking to Reed. It was a lot of laughs, a lot of great stories. And there was a great celebration at Archie Williams/Drake over the summer to celebrate 50 years. We were very fortunate to sit down with the great Fritz Pointer, a college professor and the brother of the legendary R&B group, the Pointer Sisters, and also himself a great basketball player, played at McClymonds High School and Creighton in college. His cousin, Paul Silas, one of the top 50 NBA players in history. Fritz was just a really thoughtful, interesting guy. That was a great discussion. We sat down with Dave Albee, legendary Marin IJ columnist. We talked about the different landscape, the changing landscape of media. And back in the day when he was with the IJ, Dave was covering pro sports. He was on the road covering the Super Bowl and the Final Four and kind of met with everybody. Today, that doesn't happen for the IJ. It's just a whole different world. And Dave was great to talk to. And we're huge fans of his. He has a book out about Maine high school basketball. That's a wonderful read. It's great. We had a coach roundtable, our second coach roundtable. We weren't able to clip that one with our friends Jada Maestri and Zach Borello, Redwood boys and girls coaches, and then the great Jonas Honeck, who we've had on multiple times. This was a really fun discussion. I'm saying the word really a lot. I need to stop that, Duffy. Sorry. New Year's resolution. I'm going to try and say really less. Really less. Anyway, this coach roundtable was awesome. We had the MC girls, the state title team, Izzy McFadden, the Marin County Player of the Year, the great Jocelyn Jiganis, and their coach, Caden Korst, who is now obviously at Branson. That was a super fun discussion. We did it upstairs in the Marin Catholic Gym and just talked about their incredible playoff run. And then finally, I think we were able to clip this one in this episode, but I just want to shout out Brian Murphy. Murph, KMBR 68, sports talk, radio host for decades, a legendary Marin figure, and a huge fan of our podcast. And just all we need to do is kind of turn on the mics and let Murph cook. He's hilarious. Kind of like our friend Dan Dibley. So in addition to all these, we have clips from several other interviews we did this year that were just so much fun. Can't thank our guests enough for sitting down with us. We're off to another great year here in 2026. We've got a few interviews already lined up and a few in the bank. We're going to have more roundtables and more, player coach perspectives. And we'll just continue to celebrate and enjoy the great landscape of Marin basketball. So thanks, everybody. Duffy, let's hear some clips.
Really, Dave? I mean, really? I don't think you're really going to be able to get rid of your adverb use of really, and nor would I want you to. It is a very nice and consistent aspect of your vocabulary, and I think we just really keep going with it. But that's an aside. Let's get into these snippets. We do want to take a moment to appreciate our sponsors first. So you'll hear from our sponsors. And then our first snippet is going to be from KNBR's Brian Murphy, 25 years plus and ongoing on the air there. And he's going to be talking about his CYO coaching persona. And this was a fun little clip where Murph gets out his phone and starts rattling off some quotes. And we just talk a little bit about how he likes to coach. All right, let's kick it off. The Run TMC podcast is brought to you by The Hub in San Anselmo, our favorite place to meet and eat and greet. The Run TMC podcast has hosted multiple roundtables at The Hub, and we thank Jerry and Rebecca for their ongoing support. We want to mention that right now they still have a special going on with the Lawrence Elk Burger. Very clever, right, Dave?
Very.
The Lawrence Elk Burger, super lean protein topped with caramelized onions, sautéed mushrooms, point raised blue cheese, crumbles, butter lettuce, and house-made sriracha chili mayo. So you can get that elk burger as it is described, or you can get some elk patty and put it on one of the delicious salads that the Hub serves on a daily basis.
We are sponsored by Encore Custom. From the field to the gym and everywhere in between, Encore Custom designs high-performance team apparel built for athletes, coaches, and active communities. Each piece is crafted with technical precision, modern fits, and customizable details that bring your team identity to life. Shop their ready-to-wear performance gear online or in-store, or create custom designs made exclusively for your team. Visit www.encorecustom.com or stop by their headquarters at 891 4th Street in San Rafael, California, to see where performance meets design. Thank you, Neil, and the Encore Custom team for your support. We love you.
Well done, Dave. And just an addendum to this, we have an online pop-up store with Encore Custom in development coming soon with a new fabric and a new design for our Run TM tees that have been a favorite in the community for almost 3 years now, Dave.
Love it. Can't wait for the store to get live. Good work, Duff.
And thank you to our newest sponsor, the Social Club. That is the Social KLUB, a modern indoor playground in Sausalito for kids aged 0 to 7. It is designed for play, exploration, and creativity. By day, it's a beautifully curated play space where kids can burn energy and parents can relax. That sounds great if you have little kids. And after hours, it transforms into a hub for adult classes, workshops, and events, bringing the same sense of community to grown-ups too. This is co-founded by Tessa White, who is a big fan and now a sponsor of the podcast. Thank you to Tessa. And you can find the Social Club at 2650 Bridgeway in Sausalito, California. We've talked about this before on the podcast and just like, in our little coaching circle, so that you really, to be effective, you have to be the same guy or same gal as a coach with the same energy. You can't be like a complete madman one day and then sort of chill, you guys do your own thing the next. Like that, you lose the trust really quickly. So I can tell you're the same coach every day, every practice, every game.
I feel like breaking out some of my stuff I have.
Cliff's going to his phone.
I'm going to my phone here.
And you were on the air earlier today, right?
I was, yeah.
So you're the same guy now that you were like, 4 hours ago on the air.
I mean, the Wooden one, crushing losses, with John Wooden's definition of success, is peace of mind attained through knowing that you gave maximum effort and the best to which you were capable of being that day.
Yes.
And he says, you cannot do more than that. No one can.
Yeah.
And that's success. Now let's go get a milkshake.
On the pyramid of
I say,
success.
let's go to Swirl. I have here's a guy, one of the players said, I like the way I'm talking to myself. And I was like, I talked to the kids about that. You got to talk to yourself in a positive way. I got a positive way.
Self-talk, yeah.
I think this is from Drew. This is from Drew Holiday, but no, somebody liked it. He goes, I'm 6'1", so to be in this league. Oh, no, I think it's Gary Payton. I'm 6'1", so to be in this league for 12 years, you've got to find a way to have mental toughness. You have to come out with effort and play on the defensive end. You just have to find a way to impact the game without scoring. Sometimes I have a Guy Santos quote.
Oh, nice.
I was watching the last couple games and said, okay, when I get in the game, I'm going to change the energy, Guy Santos said. Go in there and dive on the floor. If I've got to push somebody on the other team, if I've got to fight with somebody, I'll do it, but I'm going to change the energy on the floor.
We saw him do that this season.
Did?
Yeah. And in the playoffs.
I could go on and on and on, man. Here's Klay Thompson being a basketball player, doing things with great time. I said, here's a guy, one of the coaches said, passing is contagious. Every championship team passes the ball.
By the way, I use
Lindy Waters. I'm grateful for what I have, so I can't be greedy and have a bad attitude. I'm going to be the same person every day. Whatever my role is that day, I'll accept it, and I just want the team to win.
I'm not sure I'm convinced on Lindy.
Murph is big on the 12 to 15 slots on the Warriors roster. He likes those guys.
Don't make it bigger than it is. They need to feel you. The one I love telling kids is when Steph was a playoff game recently and he missed 2 free throws and had a big smile on his face. I forget which year it was. God, so many championship years. I forget. It might have been the Celtics year. And he had a huge smile on his face and then made the next one. And somebody asked him after the game, he said, why did you smile? And he said, because attitude can manifest everything.
That's great.
He knew he was going to make his next 99 too. But
anyway,
progression.
Speaking of contagious, one that I like that I tell my kids all the time is calm is contagious.
Yeah, well, patience, poison, don't panic. We do that, but calm is contagious.
But like when teams press us.
What's funny about me, that's right. That's when we calm is I like
calm
that.
Is contagious.
I loved this one from Stan Van Gundy, came on our show. Rebounding is your opportunity to compete for possession of the ball. Simple, but effective. The one I took when we were going against a monster team, the guy from FDU, Farley Dickinson.
Yeah.
The more he said before, he says in that locker room before they go, he goes, the more I see Purdue, the more I think we can beat them.
Yeah,
and I was like, and he said that before the game. And it's like gave these kids. So we're going up against a big nasty team. Like, hey man, the more I see them, the more I know we can beat them.
That was they beat Edie, right? That was the huge upset.
Right.
Man.
They were the 1 seed.
16-1. We can go on and on and on.
Question for you.
That's awesome.
Murph, coaching.
Yeah.
I've tried this with teams where we press, and we want the guys to go as hard as they possibly can and like just burn yourself out 2 minutes at a time, quick rotations. I know CYO, you don't do it
No, yeah,
quite
you
that
can't
way.
do that. Yeah.
But, we're like, give us a fist. You
Okay.
like, and then if you give us a fist, you come out,
Mhm.
you're going right back in.
Mhm.
And you know how often they actually do that?
Never.
A couple times.
Oh, they do. I didn't want to.
But nowhere near where you would expect it.
Yeah.
So what are some other ways, like especially 7th grade level, that like in game, like you can reward kids who are just going extra because you want them to go so hard that they're tired, right?
Yeah. Well, that is true. Well, it is a little bit different for us because we do sort of have slotted substitutions, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
I
like 4
haven't had the
minutes at a
chance to coach
time,
high school where I would be coaching to win like that. That's an interesting thing. But mostly I think it would be the result of creating a culture where, if a kid does something like that or something, when he comes off the floor, man, I am loving him up so big and like, go get some water. You won that, man. What a performance. You did this. I get very excited for the kids. I get super excited for the kids and I'll be like pounding their chest and like, did you see what you did out there? So mostly it would just be like intense feedback is what I would give them.
That's great.
Big tousle of the head.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love it. I get so happy when they do well. I'm so pleased when they play hard. I always tell my kid played this 3-on-3 tournament when he's like in 3rd grade and he was overmatched and played so freaking hard. His face turned purple and was diving for balls and they lost. And I was just like, that was the greatest performance I will ever see from you. That was awesome. So great.
So great.
So
love it.
It's the fun. I mean, that's the fun part. Anyway.
Yeah, man. This clip is from Adam Gutierrez of Huddle. Adam is an old friend and such an interesting guy to listen to about a variety of topics. This story in particular really resonated with me. There's that word really again, Duffy. Apologies. It's a story of using the Huddle analytics in a different context than we're used to. Speaking of high-level international football and a name that many of you will recognize. Thought this was super cool. Take it away, Adam.
Forgive me to go a little bit off, but we had this a while back. I'll never forget it. We had the sport analyst for FC Barcelona at one of our retreats. He was just going through how he uses variations of Huddle, and part of the visualization he was doing was this is a whole other conversations, but we have wearables, Wemu and Titan, where now you have athletic performance data sort of as data points to help you think through coaching and performance. And so anyway, you're showing through this diagram, FC Barcelona and their 11 players, and it also had their sort of like payload, performance load. And if you go to 100%, 100% time, that's 100%. If you're just kind of sitting around drinking a beer, that's 0%, right? And so they showed the kind of the 11 folks starting lineup, and most of them, don't quote me on this, most of the athletes were somewhere between 75 and 85%. And there's one athlete that was right around, maybe call it about 35% in terms of performance load. Who was that athlete?
Messi.
It was Messi, right? And then, but he would show us, let's figure it.
Thank you.
You get a prize. But he would also show us visually where Messi would sort of migrate to. And he would migrate to these spots, which would attract not one defender, not two defender, but three defenders. So he's almost like the fly in the spider web, right? And so he's trying to attract as many spiders into his orbit and would just sort of slowly get there. And by doing that, he opened up the rest of the team to sort of execute and play offense and set up because they had a lot more visual, and this way you can see the visual spacing benefit them. And that blew my mind, right? In terms of seeing performance data plus visual spacing. And it was Messi who was the fly that attracted all the spiders, but he set them up for the trap, right? And eventually scored the goal. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's a lot like, and Dave and I have talked about the principle of holding the corner with a shooter in basketball. And if you have an elite corner shooter, they're kind of doing very much the same thing because the defense has to be weighted towards them a little bit, and then that is setting up more opportunities, bigger gaps on other areas of the floor.
You nailed it. And we purchased a company a year and a half back called Fast Model, and they're definitely targeted. Almost every NBA team, WNBA team uses it, and they're great at visualizations. And it's like, as I've been talking, video by plus data is to find the moments that count. But you also, the more you can visualize it, gets you even more closer to how you want to teach, how you want to perform. And fast model is a great way of doing visual diagramming around that aspect of which you mentioned, Coach Duff.
So for Adam, give us some examples of, like, I remember seeing something online about how Josh Allen is a great example of a player who, from kind of small town, from Fireball, I think, California, right? Middle nowhere.
Yeah.
But gets a scholarship, Wyoming, right? I think.
Yeah.
Obviously now, one of the best quarterbacks in the world, unbelievable player, but Huddle played a role in getting his name out there. Give us other examples of kind of success stories of athletes who have used the Huddle platform to get their name out there.
We love the Josh Allen story because he's representative of a lot of millions of athletes in that regard. And just for our fellow folks join this with us, that great quarterback, no limited in stars, right? No recruit, no scholarships. But he had the film there. He had the performance, put together his highlight reels, and just started sending it out and just like, hey, check out my Huddle film, check out my Huddle film, check out my Huddle film. It's kind of fun on Friday nights when you go into X or Twitter. You just every 7 seconds, hey, check out my Huddle highlights. Hey, check out my Huddle highlights. As some sort of athlete from across the country getting that out. But that was sort of there's been commercials of him showing that. It's like, hey, look at me. That's the beauty of film and data. And then that's why they want it so quickly, is to get it out, right? To tell their story. In this case, Josh was telling a story to get recruited, but a lot of people are just telling their story also to build their brand and to build followers and look at this. And it doesn't have to be, the next Caleb Williams. It could be X, Y, and Z.
Right.
In my community. But the thing that I've seen over time, which is really exciting, and then it's like, this sounded modest, but like every NFL draftee, 99% of them have had Huddle highlights, right? The only one this past year was the punter from, I think, Australia. But everyone has their Huddle highlights. But what we know for true is that same trend is happening in the NBA. That same trend is happening in the WNBA, where a majority of all of those stars have been on the Huddle platform at some point. The part that we love that, of course, right? But we love when that high school gets a scholarship to that Division III just to continue that journey.
Dave, I'm going to come clean here with a confession. I do not have Huddle highlights of myself as a player. And that perhaps explains my lack of professional athletic playing experience. But I have created highlights for others, and I do have a lot of experience making Huddle playlists for scouting purposes. So I've got something going for me. That was a great conversation with Adam. Up next, we get the player perspective from the first of our 2 player roundtables from this fall and winter. This was with 3 MCAL boys, all-league players from last year, and 2 all-league girls players. First, they're going to talk about some in-game player perspective considerations, in particular, that player-coach interaction, and in the heat of the moment, what is the best way for the coach to help the player, but also sometimes the player to help the coach. And then we also get into favorite practices. What's an ideal practice for each of these players? It was super fun, really fun, Dave, to get the player perspective on these and other topics. Helpful for us as coaches, and I think fun for these players as well.
So Duffy asked about pregame preparation, which was great. So now let's talk about in-game. I'm always curious about this from a player's perspective. We love the ambient noise here at the Hub. There's a baby. That's not Duffy crying, by the way. Okay, coaches coaching at you in the middle of a game. So it's a loud gym. It's playoffs, Redwood, and your coach is screaming stuff at you because you made a mistake and he or she is giving you a pointer. Do you listen to that stuff? Can you hear it? Like, how do you respond to in-game coaching?
I think it can be really hard to hear your coaches most of the time. I try my best if I don't hear them. Like, I finish the play and then after I'm like, what were you saying? And then it's like easier to hear. But like some players, I think completely tune that out. Like last year, I had players on my team that were like very much like KK would yell at them and they'd be like, huh? And then just keep going and like never recircle back to it. So I think it just depends on how you play in the game. Like, of course, you need to be able to take that criteria to help you during the game. But like for some people, they'd rather go at it at halftime with their coach than they would just like taking that quick second.
Yep. What do you think?
For me, it's honestly just not taking anything personal. I know our coach, shout out Coach D, he's definitely like big screamer during the games, which is fine. He gets his point across, which is good. But it's honestly because the gym's loud. You can barely hear anything. So, he has to combat that. But he does a good job of just pulling us to a side, though. Free throws, just like little timeout stuff like that. He'll pull us, talk to us, very monotone when he does that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to listen to what he's saying, and he knows what he's talking about. Obviously, the coaches have been playing way longer than us, so probably listen to them.
How about like timeouts specifically? So as coaches, we struggle. I definitely struggle with this. Like, there are about 27 things I want to tell you guys, but we have a minute, right? You get your water, you sit down, and I've been told over talking to a lot of coaches, like, really, you need to focus on like one thing, like one message. Like, we got to box out, or we got to move the ball better, or whatever it is. But coaches tend to throw 5 things at you in a timeout. Can you process things in a timeout, or like how does that work? Joe, what do you think?
I mean, a lot of times like we're really gassed, and so like that timeout's like the time just to catch your breath.
Right.
So I agree with you. Like again, like just that one main point across is gonna be big because like if I was just saying like 5 different things, it's gonna be hard. Like when you're just trying to catch your breath and you're just it's just difficult. So
yeah,
like I think like when you go into a timeout, like I just try to like agree with the coach. Like even if like they might not be like complete, like I see things differently on the floor than the coach because like I'm on the floor.
Yeah.
So I might have like different feelings about like what to run or like certain things to do, but like most of the time they're right, and like you just have to agree and like make the coach feel comfortable. Because I feel like if a coach is not comfortable, then like he might just like on the court. Like if you're not comfortable, you might do stuff that you like wouldn't usually do. And like if you're keeping the coach comfortable and like confident in their players, then like I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also during the game, I've had a lot of situations where the scout isn't always perfect, which is just going to end up happening. And so let's say, for example, a person that we thought wasn't a shooter is all of a sudden making all these threes. You just have to make that in-game adjustment. You can't be like, hey, coach, that wasn't on the scouting report. We didn't know that was going to happen. I think you just have to adjust to that. And so going up to your coach and talking to them after you've already made the adjustment is also super important, just to keep everything transparent.
That's a great point. Let's talk about practice. We love practice. Do you guys like practice? Okay. NJ, what in your view is a good practice? Like, so you have a practice and you're thinking, man, that was awesome. What happened at that practice? Is it like a lot of drills, a lot of scrimmaging? Like what makes a good practice in your view?
For me, good warm up before, body feeling good and everything. Good 30 to an hour skills development, maybe running some plays, shooting drills, make sure all the fundamentals are good. And then honestly, next hour, just scrimmaging. And then it's not just one-on-one back and forth, stuff like that, just like bad basketball, but it's implementing those plays, then using them to really help us in the long run. We really focus on that in Branson for our practices, especially. We'll have like good 30 to an hour of just scrimmaging, using the plays we just learned or just plays we have before to help us a lot.
Kind of like a controlled scrimmage where you'll like different situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll go even some like situational, like down 5, 2 minutes left.
Right.
Go from there, or like even like 5 seconds left, inbound, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Goes a long way.
Cease, what's a good practice?
My favorite types of practices are when they kind of like, you get that good warm up in, like your stretches, stuff like that. And then when you honestly just start with the absolute basics, like just getting those repetition of shots down low, like that's my favorite thing ever, because most people will be like, this is so boring. To me, it's like, oh my God, I go in a game and I made the shot I was practicing. I was like, score.
Yeah.
But like things like that, I think are a great way, because sometimes you can't feel that they're getting better, but they really are without you knowing it. And then I'm a big fan of just shooting free throws, like make 10 in a row before water. that's something that's really important for me because most people I feel like slack on the idea of how important free throws are in a game. They could win or lose. Like I've been in games where we've lost by 3 points and it's like maybe we missed 4 free throws on the court and it's like if you make those, it's really important. So, and then like NJ was saying, if you're learning a new play and stuff like that, I just like a good controlled half court kind of teammate versus teammate run it. I think it's really helpful because learning the plays is something that you can be like, oh, I remember them. And then the second someone starts putting pressure on you, you're like, uh-oh. So yeah.
Brooke, what do you got?
I think what makes a fun practice is ending with something energetic. So we like to end with scrimmaging, but I also think that playing a fun game, for example, like 2-on-1 continuous, if you've heard of that one,
I've heard of
is
that
super
one.
fun. To just get competitive, you end with a sweat. And yeah, you just kind of remember that it's not always about the learning, it's about the fun as well. And that's why you play the sport.
Joe, what's your favorite drill?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot I could choose from. I mean, for me, I don't really have a favorite drill, I'd say. Just more so when we compete in scrimmaging and like having like a focus and dialed in scrimmaging where guys are, holding each other accountable.
Yeah.
Going at each other, making each other better. So I'd say that's kind of my favorite drill. And that's not like really a drill, but yeah.
I'd say my favorite drill is like we do like this like Rodman drill, which is just like basically a coach shoots it and like it's 2-on-2 and like you're just like fighting for the like rebound and like we don't really call fouls and we just get aggressive, like no out of bounds, no nothing, and just everybody's competing and like being physical with each other. I like that. And it just gets you ready for like when we're scrimmaging, just like the effort and energy that like you need to bring to like the scrimmage and then obviously like implementing that into the game.
Anything else on this stuff? Okay, Duffy's looking sage.
So this next clip is a snippet of our discussion with Tony Butler, our great friend and a phenomenal coach, the San Marin girls varsity coach. We discuss a variety of things with Tony about coaching, playing, leadership, teamwork, culture, all that stuff. This portion of our discussion was more X's and O's, and it was a ton of fun. We talked about, first of all, how to teach finishing around the rim. It's an issue that a lot of high schoolers struggle with. Our Branson team struggles with this all the time. So Tony had some cool ideas on drilling, just finishing your layups, right, left hand, off foot. And then we got into a discussion, one of our favorite old chestnuts, about zone and the good and the bad of zone. And obviously there's a stigma to it. We've talked about it, particularly at the youth level, but in high school, zones could be very effective. And so this was a fun discussion with Tony about zones. Please enjoy.
So about making layups, it's obviously critical for the girls, but also for the boys. I mean, our team's missed a lot of layups this year. How do you teach that in practice? What are your different techniques? Are you slam 2 feet and go up, or are you like contact when you're doing layup?
We stole it from, we do finishing school is what we call it. And we stole that from, I believe it was Doug Novak. And it's boring as all could be, but it starts with basically no dribble. One player under the basket, one player on the nail, and you just, they jog to the basket and you toss to the outside hand and they go up and you run through the gamut of off left foot, right hand, right foot, right hand, stride stops, tuck in your shoulder, finish outside hand. And we go through all of that and we do it into the season. And the girls roll their eyes but they also get to watch film of themselves smoking layups left and right. So they know they need to do it. We do what we call blinds, where we take a player and and there's different ways to create constraints within this kind of drill. And I'm sure you guys do similar things where you take a player and turn their back to the basket, turn their back to the player with the ball facing the basket, put the ball in their back.
Yep.
And when they pull the ball off their back, it's live and you have the advantage because you know where you're going.
Yep.
And you could constrain your defender by saying, don't foul, or, hey, you free license to throw them into the wall, right? Forcing contact, things like that. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff and build off of it.
Great.
Say like 1v1 blind or 2v1 blind. So you're playing 1v1 blind, but you put a player in the corner. So if you can't shoot, you get to kick it.
Right.
We really stress playing off of 2 feet just because so many turnovers and come off of players making decisions on the run and leaving their feet. We allow players to make jump passes, but they're only allowed to do that if they've made that decision before they left their feet. So they can't leave their feet and then decide where they're going to go with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they need to jump to make the pass to get it there, then go for it. But don't leave your feet and then figure it out, right? And even then, that's a slippery slope, right? Because the individual will tell you, like, I knew she was open over there,
Right.
but they've already left their feet and corner help is returned. To
Do you film your practices?
sometimes I just forget.
Yeah.
Sometimes I actually last week stopped practice in the middle and got my phone out and turned the camera on because I wasn't happy with the level of defense, and you can feel the mood change. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they all know who it is. They know who it is. And it's a roundabout way to sort of get them to pick up their intensity a little bit without having to single out, hey, Dave, you're half-assing practice today.
Very true.
Right.
Yeah. So do you change your defensive style based on your opponent, or do you say, all right, this is who we are, this is our identity, we're going to just stay us?
I think I'm doing that more now, just based on personnel.
Yeah.
When I had a couple of years ago, when we were just had a bunch of talent, we could get away with just saying, this is how we do things and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Now we have to look at personnel here and there. So we'll guard ball screens differently depending on who the opponent is.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have staples. This is what we're going to do. We're most likely going to press you regardless of who you have.
Yeah.
We're going to try to speed you up. We're not the type to run back and play half court man-to-man defense. I think it's boring to start with, and the kids get bored of that, right? Like, the game is you're meant to run up and down the floor. And, I think that's a positive trend for the game, that you're seeing more open play. I think there's some detriment to that too. Sometimes it's hard to watch the freedom that some players get. And then when you try to get them under wraps a little bit, there's pushback. I think that's hard for coaches.
Yeah.
And how the game's being played now. But we're like Duff said, he saw us play zone against Archie. We're playing a little more zone this year. We used to play some 2-3 as just a mix up, change of pace. But now we're leaning into the 1-3-1 a little more. Like I said, shout out to Reed Nottingham, who've been pushing me for years to do that. And it's been good for us. I've got some girls that are fit in certain spots that make it good. And the girls have enjoyed it and they like it. So
A really good zone is very effective. There's an assumption, I think, with some kids, maybe the younger kids, that, all right, we're playing zone. Okay, now I can rest a little bit. And that's not the good zones, like, Ashley Saez and KK's 1-3-1.
Yeah.
The good zones are really active, and you're accountable for a player.
Mhm.
You're moving in, and it's not a rest. It's just a different look.
Yeah, I think I would never start with zone, and that's a whole nother conversation about club coaches and CYO coaches and youth coaches coaching zone. I will never back off that conversation that you are hurting those players.
We are
by
all
teaching.
in agreement.
Yeah, but there's plenty. You go onto the forums and there are plenty of coaches who firmly believe that you're teaching, that they believe that they're teaching their kids to better guard another human being in zone than they are by man. And I think that's just a statement to their ability to coach. I don't think that's, they just don't know how to coach it, and they should go teach them. They should go learn. Right.
So I think the 1-3-1 is the most dependent on personnel of any half-court zone.
Yeah.
So walk us through how you choose who's playing where in your 1-3-1 zone.
I will say that part of the reason we put in the 1-3-1 was twofold. Number one, I had the personnel that we have now. We have some length at certain positions and some speed at another that I think works well. But the credit all goes to Ashley, because watching
Ashley Saya.
Yeah, Ashley, watching them lean on their 1-3-1, and then their man is basically matchup. They switch everything.
Yeah,
for the most part. And those girls, they're through that dynasty, they just had girls that just understood it, right? They could plop them in and it was just really difficult to score. So part of the reason we decided to put it in was to play against it, because we couldn't duplicate it at practice. So I said, we might as well get good at it so that at least we're playing against it at practice.
Yeah.
And even now, like, zone still, I hate it at practice because the level of intensity of practice comes down.
Right.
When you're not having to match up with somebody and go mano a mano, there's just a little bit of the lack of intensity comes down. You got to be really focused and pick and choose your moments, how you do it, and go in and into it and go out of it. But no, I have the main thing is I have one particular player, Brianna Nottingham, who's really long. She's a volleyball player, and she just creates problems at the top of
The top,
at the
yeah.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she could probably do the same thing at the wing, but we found that she's been most successful at the top.
She's got the motor to go back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. And she doesn't always have to. Like, she's long enough to where
She can be disruptive.
she can just be disruptive without having to be up against somebody because,
and then your speed, you put your speed in the back.
We put our speed in the back. We've got 3 girls, I think, that can all play there, and it's conducive to their, not only just their speed, but their personalities. They just like to go and not have to think as much. So it's just pretty much like, don't give up baseline, trap the corner.
Yep.
And bzz, 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 back and forth. And so that works. And everybody else is sort of, you could fill them in. We do have longer players, and we're finding by not coincidence, but like sometimes somebody ends up at a spot and you're like, ooh, that actually might work here and there, right? You don't necessarily need the biggest player in the middle. You need a smart player there. Somebody's willing to be physical, because rebounding out of the zone is the biggest challenge, right? So you might be doing a great job and get them to take a tough shot, but you're weak on the backside, and you're one of your smallest players or somebody on the backside trying to rebound over 6'8" gate, so it's just like, it's not easy.
Yeah, especially with the boys, it seems like you want to put like a really fast, strong guard at the bottom to go corner to corner. But if you're playing a big team, and if they can lob it over the top, or that you're just going corner to corner, and then you don't have people, the rest of the 3 drop down to rebound, like, you're going to get crushed on the board. So we've had limited success with our 1-3-1, I would say.
A couple years ago, we ran it a bit with Fulton, and we would find that the weak side wing would forget to drop.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And that would be very frustrating. So if the ball's on the right wing, the left wing in the zone needs to drop to the opposite block, because that's where you're exposed.
Yeah, and because they start to, the certain personalities start to peek across the way and say, I'm going to steal the lob from slot to slot.
Exactly.
And they forget and don't drop. And, like Zach made some nice adjustments on Tuesday. It created some problems for us. And, we'll go back to the drawing board and figure out how to deal with that if we want to run it again.
This next segment is from our interview with Chris Oliver of the Basketball Podcast. We were very fortunate to have Coach Oliver join us for Season 2, Episode 28. And he has been a major influence to many in the basketball world. His whole ethos of sharing the game has resonated with Dave and I, and is a reason, maybe actually a really, really big reason, Dave, that we are podcasters and coaches currently. So we were very appreciative of Coach Oliver coming on the podcast and sharing some of his thoughts. And this segment kind of captures the classic Chris Oliver. He's talking about constraints. He's talking about interaction with space. And he gives perhaps a somewhat counterintuitive take on how to use film with players. Take it away, Coach.
Man, anytime you can add a defender, and that's really the simplest advice for any. If it's a 5-on-0 drill, add 1 defender, and it changes the perception of every player, and it makes everything more representative. Maybe 5-on-3 is better. The advantage is still the offense. They can still run your beautiful pattern, but they've got things in the environment they have to account for. And that's how we can kind of marry these concepts of old school and new school. Okay, 5-on-0, fine. I'm not a 5-on-0 coach. I'll just go here quickly. I'm not a 5-on-0 coach for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm a whole part only if I need it type of coach. So I'm doing holes. Parts, sure, but only if I need it. I'm not predetermining I'm going whole, part, whole, and I'm certainly never going part, whole, part. So whole. But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with 5-on-0. After you've done the 5-on-5 and you see, okay, they're really having a hard time with the pattern. They can't follow the pattern. Good. Then we want to remove some of that decision fatigue, go memorize the pattern, and then come back and reconnect it back to the game. To me, 5-on-0 is not the solution. It's part of the solution, but the real solution is being able to obviously make a decision in the context of the pattern within the game situation.
Yeah, along those points, Coach. Yeah, so scanning with the ball is one skill, but there's also the scanning for space off the ball. And I've heard the quote that, skill is interaction with space when you're playing the game of basketball. And that, of course, there's a lot of emphasis on skill with the ball now, but, there's not as much emphasis on skill in space. How do you use film, whether it's the film of your practices or games, or just watching games, to teach interaction with space? Is that something that you advocate?
Yes. So principles of play for us, space, advantage, and shot selection, bronze, silver, and gold. And you probably heard that in some context, but space is always the answer. So any kid that I coach in the first 5 minutes of practice, they will know that the answer to every question in basketball is space. So that's number one. We want to connect it on the floor. Space is the most important thing. We're trying to seek space on offense, and we're trying to create space on offense. And on defense, we're trying to do the opposite. And basketball is a game of opposites, so we're trying to take away the space. So that fundamental principle and them understanding that in a basketball practice helps me be able to highlight things in film. Because now when they're watching film, they know space is the answer. We can freeze it and say, okay, where's the space? Okay, where should we have, if it's defense, where should we have forced the ball so the offense had no space? And it's really that simple. And really, I don't know if players need that much more prepubescence in basketball than understanding that concept on offense and defense. Forget about your system. I'm not saying don't run a system, but I'm saying the system's not the power. The power is the player understanding the advantage relative to space or the disadvantage relative to space. So we would say we send one clip. Like that's enough. And then have a freeze frame at some point on the clip and ask a question. And then players usually, again, they won't necessarily respond, especially if it's prepubescence. But at the end of the day, then I can come to practice and say, hey, did you watch that clip? Right. And have a mini conversation or a bigger conversation. If we do film together, which I know at like a lot of levels, it's really hard to do film together. You don't have enough time or you don't have enough resources to do that. But if we ever did film together, it would be a similar process, maybe five clips at most for that age. And then it would be literally just things, freeze, hold, and then, hey, ask a question. Anytime you can bring film to life much more powerfully by using questions.
Love that. That's great. That's really good.
Awesome. Chris, you've been very at the forefront of the small-sided game revolution, right? And we've to some degree, we've all used small-sided games, whether it's 3-on-3 cutthroat or shell drill, whatever it is. But really, through your podcast and Alex Sarama and all the groups that you bring in, they're fantastic, and we use them all the time. Do you find that, so over the course of a season, let's say, does it make sense to repeat the same small-sided games, or do you try to mix it up and bring new ones? Because I find that I go back to the same, advantage drill, ball, defender on the hip, start out of that, and then play, or a 4-on-3 or whatever it is. Should we mix it up, or should we use the same drills consistently and see that way we can track the progress? I'm curious what your perspective is on that.
So I'm a big proponent of platform drills, meaning that you probably only need, like in a season, probably I only have 9 drills, like 9 games or 9 small side games. And it's an arbitrary number. Don't think you need 9 or 6 or 7. It's an arbitrary number. I'm just saying. So here's the main reason to answer your question. Players have a limited cognitive capacity. So we think about them relative to physical effort. They have a limited ability to, endure different physical activities within a practice, or they're going to get tired. It's the same thing when it comes to cognitive effort, right? If I have so many different drills that they have to spend time learning these different drills, or I have to spend time teaching these different drills, then I'm taking away from the most important part of basketball practice, which is learning time. I want them to have active learning time, meaning they're physically practicing, they've learned by doing, and I want to maximize that. I don't want to, if I have all this management time and teaching time, organizing drills and teaching new drills, then they're going to lose learning time by physically practicing. So that's number one. The number 2 kind of thing relative to platform drills and what you just said is, if you learn a constraints-led approach, then what you learn, and by the way, it's a fancy word, but most coaches use constraints. Constraints are things like, a scoring system, a spacing restriction, a dribble restriction. It's far more complex than that. Must finish with your weak hand.
Right.
We can go deeper, but if you understand this, then you can use the same drill every day and just manipulate the constraints.
This next clip is one of my faves. Obviously, they're all my faves, Duffy. These are like my children, these interviews. But this one was with Coach Brian Rooney. Such an honor to have Coach Rooney on. I just want to be a sponge and listen to everything that he says, and hopefully I can remember 10% of it at least and apply it. But here we talked about the question was his non-negotiables, and that led to him discussing kind of his one team rule, which I love, and then into more about just his coaching philosophy. And I thought this was great. So enjoy, Coach Rooney.
So what would you say are your, it's a hard question, but I'm sure you're going to answer it beautifully, Coach. What would you say are your non-negotiables? What's your kind of as a team, and then maybe one or two things on offense that are just kind of Coach Rooney staples, and then one or two things on defense?
Yeah, it's funny. So when I interviewed for the East Bay job, one of the questions was, how many team rules do you have? And, in that answer, I'm thinking about it before I answer, I'm thinking, well, is this kind of the make or break time? Because my answer was one. And so I think sometimes, people, and things work differently for different people. They want to have, 25, 50 rules, have a big manual. And ours is real simple, be a great teammate. And that may sound vague, but it goes back to the idea of to be transformative. And so are you doing that? So that's a non-negotiable thing, right? So a guy going to class and sitting in the first two rows of class, that's a transformative thing, right? A guy going and opening the door for somebody else as they enter into a building, like that has to be part of our standard. In the same way that from an offensive standpoint, if we have the opportunity to push the ball ahead in transition to find an open player, we need to be able to do that. And so, it crosses beyond the court, obviously. But from an offensive standpoint, what we talk about a lot is we talk about the idea we're searching for A shots. And what we define A shots is a rim attack with an advantage. And that advantage is going to be different for different guys. So if it's Tyree Campbell, who's, 6'5", 6'6", 215 pounds, and he's got a guy on his hip and he can elevate, over him and kind of through him, that's going to be there. For our 5'11" point guard, that's not necessarily going to be an advantage. And so that, kind of defining what an advantage looks like for each guy, or an uncontested three. So we're looking for, like, our non-negotiables offensively are a rim attack with an advantage and an uncontested three. Now, again, not to, make things, always gray, but that uncontested sometimes is different for different guys, right? So if there's a guy, within, the air, 3-foot airspace with some guys, that's a contested shot. Some guys, if that guy is, 3 feet away, but he's got his hands down, we're going to consider that, an uncontested shot for Andrew Camacho this year, right? He needs to shoot that thing every time. And so for us, we really try to dial into that. We talk about the quality of threes that we get. So for us, we want a great three. So how we define a great three is we want to go inside, we want to go out, and we want to change sides of the floor. So how we go in and out, that can be off penetration, that can be off a post enter, that can be middle penetration, that can be baseline. We want to change sides of the floor. We want to dent the defense with a paint touch, and we want to find an uncontested one. Defensively, we go a little bit more quote unquote structured. So we have 4 non-negotiables every time. So for us are we communicating? Are we talking? Do we have active hands? Are we using airtime? Meaning when the ball moves, everybody's moving, and then do we rebound? So that's how we kind of define those. And we'll do a drill in practice that our players don't always love, but we'll put 3 teams. And if non-negotiables are followed, they get to stay on defense and they get to keep earning points. But as soon as one drops, whistle blows, boom, you're off, new group is on. So that has been a good one for us over the years.
Yeah, that's great. Going back to your 3-point shooting philosophy for your team this year, what would be the ideal breakdown between 3-point shots and good 2-point shots? Is it 50-50? Is where ballpark me as to given what you're looking for when you look at the stats after the game?
Yeah, I think we don't, to be honest with you, we don't really look at exactly there of like, is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? There's going to be games that we might shoot 33s. There might be a game that we shoot 23s. It's more of the quality of shot that we're going to get. So if, like, let's say we take 15 threes and we end up taking, 40, 45 twos, but those 15 threes are, all contested, they're same side, 1-pass threes. I would much rather shoot 33s, right? Where we're shooting a higher quality of shots and vice versa. So what we're really trying to do is, how do we put the defense in a position where they have to have multiple guys react to the action, right? Whether that's transition action, whether that's ball screen action, whether that's penetration, whether that's post enter. And so if we can do that, we feel the quality of shots we're going to get our percentage wise. So like as an example, we played Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in an exhibition, kind of our first, kind of as a group together. And I think we had 33 made field goals and 22 were assisted. So we look more at the percentage of assists to made baskets. So if we can be in that range of like 60 to 70 plus, that's pretty, I think it's pretty good basketball, from where we are. And I think the last thing we look at too is, are we getting to the free throw line? So like I think we average in our first opening weekend, we averaged about 30 free throw attempts. And part of that is, there are a lot more whistles early in the year than there are later in the year, usually. But also I think it had to do with just the aggression of our guys attacking the rim, which is all, no matter, what we're going against defensively, is always going to be a priority.
All right, Coach. Duffy is a total nerd. I think you know this. He loves the stats. So let's talk stats.
That's part of the reason. I don't mean to, but that's part of the reason I keep listening. I love it. I love the nerd stuff.
Totally. Nerds unite. #nerdlife. All right. What are the stats that we're not tracking that we should? Do you have, and Duffy and I talk about this, and Duffy's coaching with a guy, Kevin Vasquez, who's a great coach, played at Davis, played for Bob Williams, awesome, very analytical. They're always talking about the stats that you don't track, and I'm sure Duffy can rattle off a few, but what do you think?
So I think probably ones that people already track. So we're big on deflections defensively. Sorry, are we tracking deflections? Are we tracking from an offensive standpoint? We're tracking paint touches. How many times are we getting 2 feet in the paint? And then we break those down, right? So how many times are we getting the paint on 2 feet? How many times are we getting the paint on 2 feet? And there's a secondary action. So we're getting into the paint and we have a lift fake. We get into the paint and we're playing pivot game off of that. Or are we getting in there and we're off of 1 foot? Whether we're going to finish, we're trying to go to score, or we're going trying to find, somebody from a teammate standpoint. One of the two big ones that we do that are maybe not always tracked, and we haven't always tracked them, but we've tracked them the last couple of years, and I think they've been positive, have been corner touches. So we will track, and like in practice and in games, but obviously we have way more practice than we have games. We'll track every possession. And so, Dave's playing, the 2 for us, and he was involved in 30 transitions, both defensively and offensively. And we'll grade them, and our guys will understand what does it mean. So like offensively, if you're a rocket guy for us, which that's like our 5-man, people have different names for it, but are they sprinting? And we don't exactly go rim to rim, but we go a little bit outside of it. Are they sprinting every single time? If they are, that's 1 for 1, right? If they're not, they're 0 for 1. And we track that throughout the entire time. So we look at those. We look at, obviously, from the wing guys, we want them to get all the way to the corner from a spacing standpoint. And then we also grade our rebounding. So there's different ways from a rebounding standpoint. But if you're a crash guy and the shot goes up, there's a place you need to be every time. So shot goes up. If you are hanging out in kind of no man's land that we refer to it, whether you're a crash guy or what we refer to as a get back guy, then you're like, it's going to be a down. And so at halftime, we have a coach that's tracking that in a game. If we're 85 to 95% in our transitions, and I'm not talking about even scoring, I'm just talking about like, are we executing our assignments? We're probably going to be getting a lot more transition opportunities than not. And the same thing I would say from a defensive standpoint, right? Shot goes up. Like if you're a point guard, right? Shot goes up and your guy does not crash, because not all point guards are going to crash. Your responsibility is to find that next guy, to get to the nail and then find the next guy. So you have a chance to earn, right, a defensive, transition, kind of bonus point, for lack of a better term. It's not really bonus. It's just should be expected. Is you have to be part of that. You've got to be engaged with it. So I would say really grading out the rebounding, really grading out the transitions, and then again, like the quality of shots that we get. So we talked about it a little bit a couple minutes ago, is what kind of 3 are we getting? So going back to Duffy's question is, we shot 23s. How many of those did we get paint touches on? How many of those did we change sides? So kind of the numbers behind the numbers, so to speak.
This next clip is from our interview with our good friend Charles Hovler, where we discuss college athletics and NIL, name, image, and likeness. And Charles was super fun to listen to and bounce ideas off of, as he clearly came at it with strong opinions about the system. He's a fan of NIL and thinks that the old system was flawed in a meaningful way, which we get into right here. So enjoy this discussion.
But so this old system that you're talking about, Charles, agree, tons of revenue being generated on the backs of these players who weren't seeing any of it themselves. Technically, I mean, realistically though, they were seeing some of it, but it was under the table. Some of them got busted. Some schools got busted, but it was just this charade, right?
The key to success was not getting caught.
Right.
So to me, that's almost a definition of a broken system. Like the people who did the best were the ones who were cheating and didn't get caught. Now, I think that's pretty broken.
Right. And you see teams like, Jerry Tarkanian's UNLV team, and those guys all now, like Larry Johnson, and everybody's like, yeah, of course we were getting paid.
Yes.
Right. So that all was happening. We should say, for our listeners who maybe don't know what NIL is name, image, and likeness. A couple years ago, it was approved by Congress that now basically college athletes can be compensated for the use of their name, image, or likeness.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that it's to date, the way that it's been utilized is colleges are not directly involved. We're going to get to the revenue sharing thing, but colleges are not directly involved with it. But what they do is they have boosters, alums, supporters who raise money through what are called collectives.
Mm-hmm.
So just think about fundraising for, any kind of college. They go to the alums, they pass the hat around, they get a bunch of money, and they use that money to compensate athletes who come to their school. And it's technically cannot be quote unquote pay to play. So you can't just compensate the student athlete for just being there. They have to do something. But what they can do is advertise a product,
sign some jerseys.
Sign
There has to be a
autographs.
service rendered.
There has to be a service.
technically.
Right. But an NIL has now exploded, coupled with the transfer portal, right? And so the other difference between now and the old system, which I assume you are in favor of the way it works now, is it used to be if you wanted to transfer schools, you could do it, but you had to sit out an entire year. That restriction is gone. So now, at the end of the season, every season, football and basketball, I think you have 30 days. The transfer portal opens at the end of the season. For basketball, it opened even while the NCAA tournament was going on, which was crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like Final Four week, and the portal just closed. But now you have thousands of kids in the transfer portal, and they can transfer to other schools, and they don't have to sit out. So it's the term the Wild West has been thrown around.
Well, how about free market?
That's another way to look at it.
I mean, if we operate on the assumption that these aren't actually amateur athletes, if you're good enough to get paid, to me, by definition, you are a professional. Okay, so why is this system worse than the other one? This seems like a free market where I have a lot of value because I'm really good at what I do, and it shouldn't matter if I'm 18 years old, 12 years old, or 30 years old. If there's value in what I do, then I should go to the place that values it the highest.
So the downside is, as a fan of college athletics,
I thought that was a pretty good segue.
that was really good. Way to go, Charles.
Well, right, so Dave, we should say we agree. I think you and I and other sort of critics of NIL agree that the prior system was not perfect, and there was a lack of fairness to athletes in particular. Many athletes were being, abused and maybe had injuries and came out of college with a scholarship that perhaps didn't end up with a degree, and they had a lifelong injury, and there were many, probably too many to count, that got
As soon as
screwed.
that kid got hurt, he was useless. He or she was
Yes.
useless to the school.
Right.
And the
So-
boosters and everything else.
So let's agree on that. But now let's ask the question of, okay, well, we have a new system. It's completely different. It does solve inequities of the prior system, but it has brought up some new, I don't know if I call them inequities, but some challenges both for the student athlete, but also for the coach and for the fan. And also ultimately probably for the student athlete on the backside of their college degree, where they go from being paid $250K a year, whatever it is, to having nothing. And if they don't manage their money well through that, 4 years, they could end up.
So this is the issue. And so one argument would be, okay, we all benefited greatly from our college experience, right? We had an amazing experience. We each, Duff, Middlebury, Charles, you and I. I'm sorry, Haverford. How could I do that?
That's your second player control, Dave, because I got to correct you right now. NIL was not an act of Congress.
Oh, wasn't?
Nope. NCAA, under pressure from state legislatures.
Oh, the revenue sharing was an act of Congress.
Yes.
There's a list of things that everybody has to be good at. And that's a team philosophy that you make decisions on roster selection and construction on. If you don't work hard, you don't make the team. If you're incapable of sitting in the stands, you don't make the team. I'm not talking about any specific team, but everybody should do these things unless you have some unique skill that allows you to stand out. But even then, it's just a point of frustration. But then beyond that, everybody has their own specific individual skills. And so I always encourage kids to write down what they're bad at. KK and I coached a team together last year. Was that the fall? Spring. And a lot of it was like me just talking, to Hakeem about whatever. And half the girls aren't listening and half are. But I think the takeaway there was go home, write down on a piece of paper, what are your 5 worst qualities? And don't do anything else until you fix those 5.
So let's give our friend Tony Butler a chance to plug his amazing business. Not a sponsor yet. But Tony, you created All Net Mindset. Our Branson team was a client, and we loved it. And this is what you do. You're right. You're helping kids approach the mental side of the game. It's so critical. Discuss, because the things that you preach, I love it. Journaling, recovering from adversity. Like talk about it.
Yeah, well, I started the business more as just a mechanism to help our kids, because what I found is even though the girls that I've been coaching were having success, we were winning games, they still weren't having as much fun with it, and they weren't seeing the experience for what it really is, a lot of what KK's talking about. And I committed to coming back to the table this year with just some strategies to help these kids balance their life experience mentally, but also just empower them to have their best experience when they're playing. And so what I learned and what I'm teaching them is I've heard a lot of the buzzwords in our conversations, but just like say picking the things that they need to work on and focusing on that. But also, like, the human brain has a negativity bias, right? We always lean towards some negative. So it's really easy to kind of search out for the things you don't do well. And it takes a lot of hard work to practice finding the good things that you did well. And I wanted to get better at helping them see those things, because that's a life skill. It's not just a basketball skill. And I feel like a lot of girls are walking away from basketball because maybe it's, and this like ties into maybe some club stuff, but social media and the spotlight that's put on them. Like you hear girls say, I don't want to guard her because I don't want to get my ankles broken on Instagram. And that's really unfortunate, because all they're thinking about is that one moment. Yeah. They could go for 20 and 8, but all they're going to remember is that video that gets put out on the highlight reel of them getting their ankles broken. And I just think it's really unfortunate. So I just, the idea is to be able to give them some tools. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree and all that. It's just giving them some tools to have a better experience. And so like with the Branson girls, we talked about some visualization and seeing positivity and being able to kind of get in touch with like what they really want to get out of the experience, and mistake rituals, and being able to bounce back and from mistakes and not ruminate and allow that to impact the entire night of their experience. So I don't know if they got something out of it.
The thing that I think you got the Branson girls, which I'm sure you taught them a lot, but one thing that I've recognized is that at least our girls, I didn't really have this at MC. I'm sure it's probably not as much anywhere else except for Branson, but these kids are traveling far. They leave at 6 a.m. They don't get home till 10. They're doing dance. They're doing basketball. They're doing accounting after school. They're in the finance club. They are nonstop. And what you taught them, I think, was just to take a second. It could be 3 minutes, 30 seconds, just to breathe and appreciate and figure out where you are. Be where your feet are is so important, especially for our girls. I mean, they're on the go. If if we're going from practice to weights or open gym to weights and we've got a 15-minute gap, they're sitting down doing homework. It blows my mind how incredible they are as just humans.
Yeah, I mean they're overloaded, and I think that's it. That's a really important skill that we should be teaching our kids, even your own sons and daughters, and just how to decipher what's important in their life, and then kind of decide what they need to be doing when, and being okay with some stress and being okay with knowing what that means, but then navigating it to a place where they can enjoy actually just their existence. Because I see it with my own daughter. Sometimes it feels like they're not smelling the roses at all. They're just constantly one place to another. And it's hard as a basketball coach to try to get into the gym and try to say, let's have fun and have a good time, when we know the moment before they walked in, they're worried about an AP history test. And then they got to get on a bus. And then they got to get up in the morning, and it's just like, when we're trying to teach the enjoyment of basketball, that looks different than it did 20 years ago.
Tony, the gentleman I played for at Santa Rosa Junior College, his name was Tom Mitchell, and he had a PhD in psychology. And I laugh with people to this day. We never ran a play in 2 years. We never lifted a weight. We sat back in the 2-3 zone. His whole thing was the power of the mind. Yeah. Like, I got up there and he saw, Dave, you will begin to make 3-pointers. Yeah. I'm all right, man, I guess so. I mean, and he would have us close our eyes, and we'd kind of just ball at practice. Now, we had some good players, but his whole thing was, he ended up being the head shrink for the Warriors and got to know Phil Jackson. And his whole thing was being positive and like, you will the ball into the basket when you shoot it in transition. I'm like it was just, he was a different guy, but he won games with it. And we didn't run a play for 2 years.
For the record, Phil's a listener of the pod, right, Duffy?
Hi, Phil. Yeah, hi, Phil.
Well, I appreciate that, because I'm actually halfway through the first 2 episodes of season 3 right now. I'm halfway through the Kelly Starrett one and halfway through the Tasha Jackson one. And I like that you guys re-released those, because Kelly's talking. I know you brought Kelly on to talk about mobility and strength training and all that, but he's actually not. He's talking about mental preparation, and so is Tasha.
Totally.
And I just, personal anecdote, when I'm comfortable and happy and prepared, I'm significantly better than when I'm nervous, tight, worried. Mm-hmm. So how do you send kids out there in high pressure situations with fear everywhere and 2,000 people in the gym and have them be loose and free and happy? And I had a side conversation with Tasha about that very same thing when KK and I were coaching. And it's not complicated. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But when you're screaming and yelling and trying to win, it's hard to take a breath and slow down and do it the right way.
So we talked about this recently, Tom. We were at dinner with some friends, and we rehashed a great moment. Was your 8th grade CYO championship game, right? Where you had a really good team and you're playing a really good team and you're kind of the favorite going in and you're getting blitzed. You're down 20 in the first half against a team that's making everything. And I was sitting right behind the bench, and I remember you, and by the way, the kids on your team at that time are now some of the best players in the MCAL. But you said, you're down 20, their kids are shell-shocked. You said, we're fine. We're winning this game. You looked at every kid in the eye, and you said, we're winning this game. Relax.
Yeah, there's a few things there. I'll start with hubris and arrogance, because the reason we were down 15. It was 25-10 in a CYL game in the first quarter, which you don't win that game, obviously.
25 points in a quarter.
Yeah, we were getting kicked.
Tom's 1-3-1 trap didn't work. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's the arrogance. The arrogance was in the semifinals, we were up huge at half, and we had just put in a 1-3-1 trap that those 2 weeks in practice in preparation for the playoffs. In the second half against St. Anselm's, I got all cocky and arrogant, and I said, let's run the 1-3-1 to prepare for the finals. And we got scouted, and they're ready for it. And so 5 straight corner threes later.
Swing it.
Chase Williams, who's an MC standout in 2 sports.
Yeah.
I think he hit all 5 corner threes.
Yeah.
And if you're going to beat a 1-3-1, you bring it up the right side, wait for the trap, chuck it to the corner, and fire away. And they got us. But yeah, that day was that, Tachiki and I talk about it, at shoot around that day, we said, we will be losing tonight, and we will win. And whether you believe it or not, you say it. And then in that huddle, it was 2 things. It was, told you we'd be here. And I did everyone take a deep breath. I said, everyone take a deep breath together. The breathe thing, which I think Kelly or maybe Tasha said. And then I did that ridiculous, we're going to climb a mountain, Alabama kind of speech. But I'll quote Mike Saya last night, who quoted Jimmy Saya last night. He said, what's the term, Zanina? Jockeys never carry a horse across the finish line. We had Chase Hatch and Gabe and
You had good
Eddie
players.
Poser. Yeah,
but
we
all right,
loaded.
so on to your breathe point. KK, take us back to the state championship game. Chaotic moment. You guys were up. They go on a run. I remember watching this.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a PSA for Tony, for Tom, for Jay, for Zach, for Ed at Archie, for anybody. The kids look up to you. Like, everybody says, oh, you're so young and relatable. Like, they all look up to you. Like, they look up to you. Just from personal, like, I remember when I was in high school and I had Zach as my coach or Mike Fulton as my coach. Like, Mike Fulton is a fat old dude. And I was like,
we love you, Mike.
Idol. Like, he is my idol.
Good to see you.
Like, it wasn't that he was old or fat, like,
Yeah,
or
totally.
whatever.
Totally.
Like, he was just a legend in my eyes. My PE teacher, everybody has somebody to look up to. I don't think it matters that I'm 24 and a female. Like, people look up to you. And you're leading them. So you need to lead by example.
So if you're stressed out and frantic, they're going to read that energy.
They're going to look into it. And so I told the kids, every game's the same. Like, every game's the same. Same court, same hoops, same us against them.
Yep.
And the practice before the state game, we won on Tuesday in the NorCal final, and then I gave them Wednesday off. Because at that point, we're just like, practice just hurts us. We watched film on Thursday and maybe practiced for 45 minutes. And then we played in that practice, we did some drill, some double team drill. They had a 6'3" really tall girl who's just going to pressure us and kill us. And we just freaked out. It was like all hell broke loose. For some reason, this girl really scared us. So I said, okay, we're not going to practice this. We just need to breathe right now. Like, we are fine. We've made it this far. There's no reason we can't do one more. Every game's the same. Let's all breathe. So we literally spent maybe it was 30 seconds breathing. And then in the championship game, I don't even remember what quarter it was, but we just went on a run of turnover, freak out. Like, I couldn't find, so my idea was subbing kids and giving them opportunity. I couldn't find 5 that would just settle us down. So after not finding 5, I called a timeout and I'm like, we all just need to breathe. Like, I literally made them close their eyes. A couple were laughing, a couple were like, what the hell is she doing? And a couple were seriously sitting there and breathing. So it helped 2 kids and it ended up helping the team.
I'm willing to bet that that moment of practice where things were weird and then you stopped and breathed was the moment that you prepared for that point of the game, because they experienced it in practice and you kind of warned them. So when they experienced it in the game, they were like, well, yeah, there it was. We've seen it. We've already know it's going to be there, and we're still here, and we're fine. Because that's like the video I showed your team, Michael Phelps. He talks about he does negative visualization. He visualizes everything in his experience, including like his suit ripping and all this weird stuff, so that when he gets out there, it's just me and the black line at the bottom of the pool, and I just muscle memory, right? And I think that's kind of what you did for them without even really knowing you did it. Like, you created this panic at practice and prepared them for the panic in the game, and then they said, "Oh, we're ready. Oh, we got this."
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's credit to the kids. They listened. So
This next clip is from our discussion with Dan Krikorian from Slapping Glass, one of the leading basketball podcasts out there. Dan is the head men's basketball coach at Chapman University. Great program. And Dan was awesome to talk to. So knowledgeable. He's interviewed some of the best coaches in the world, and it shows. And he's a great guy as well. So this was a lot of fun. Thanks, Dan.
I think the great defenses understand how to play out of scrambles and recover back, because you're playing good teams. You're never in your shell. They're not going to let you get in your shell. They're either going to push it, they're going to put you in a pick and roll, they're going to do the things that George does and put you in a guard-to-guard ghost. And it's like, you better be able to help recover, scramble, weak, whatever it is, because good teams don't let you just sit there in that shell. And if they do, well, then good for you. You might win that game.
Right.
Yeah, we think about that a lot. Like, let's look at what teams are going to do to us and see if we can rep that as much as possible.
Yeah. So I'm curious for how you approach as a coach in-game coaching. How vocal are you in the game? How much are you coaching your kids, or are you trying to minimize your vocal activity? I can tell you as someone who I overtalk when I coach, so I need to shut up. But tell me what you think.
You guys seen the movie Old School?
Yeah.
When Will Ferrell comes in on fire and yelling at everybody not to panic.
Right.
And I'll laugh. That's how you feel internally. That's how I feel internally. You know, you come into the room and like world on fire. You're trying not to panic. I try not to do that, but it's certainly how you feel during the game. I would say I'm a little more of I try to stay even keeled, especially in game coaching. That was an interesting adjustment for me as a head coach this year because, you know, for years as the assistant, you're a little more like sniper role where you're just looking at stuff and you're looking at the next play call and what they're doing with the backside tag and the sub. And then all of a sudden you've got to kind of elevate and really focus in on the flow of the game. How are we playing? What's just our body language look like? What do we feel like? And that was an adjustment for me. And so I think I always, especially in timeout situation and talking to a player, I don't want them to be having to manage me as a coach. They just need the correct information to help win the game. It's not about me during the game. It's not about me looking good to the fans and trying to win 500 games like Coach Bo in one night. Like, it's about like, can we beat this team? And I think my job is to make sure I'm getting the correct feedback from them in timeout. I'm getting the correct feedback from my assistants. I'm communicating as thoroughly as I can in short amount of time. Not unemotional, but for the most part, fairly unemotional, unless there needs to be an emotional timeout, which we all know that time we do need that as a player. We do need a little bit of something. So that's my thoughts on it. Like, I want our team to not be like worried about me losing my mind on the side or me having crazy antics. And then they're not even, because then at that point, like, teams in our conference are too good. They don't need to beat me as a coach, and they don't need to beat the opponent. They just need to beat the opponent to win.
Right.
So my thoughts are that, you know, and some of the coaches that I love watching, and I study a lot of coaches in game. Like, I love how Brad Stevens coach in game. Some of these really good NBA coaches where the world is, you know, like Rick Carlisle is so great. Like, you're recording this during the NBA finals where he's obviously intense, he's tuned in, but like, he's just really good at moving moment to moment without losing sight of stuff. So that's what I aspire to. Like I said, I feel internally sometimes like Will Ferrell in Old School, but you know, that's the growth as a coach.
Don't we all? I mean, Carlisle's a fantastic mention. We talked in our last episode about, you know, this incredible run. You know, who knows what's going to happen in the finals, but the Pacers, through their playoff run, 5 games at least where they've been down 15 and they came back to win it. And Carlisle's done this forever. I mean, when he coached the Mavs, they had some incredible comeback in the finals. You know, he's really good at keeping his team present and just focusing on the next play, playing at pace. And they just, the Pacers are never out of the game.
Yeah.
Right. And that starts with, back to what we talked about an hour ago with culture, starts with a coach. That's Carlisle, right? I mean, he keeps them in the game.
It's really hard to do. Like, it's easy to say on a podcast. It's really hard when you're trying to win a game and there's people in the stands and score and the players are emotional. It's an emotional game. And so it's like, how do you find the correct emotional lever? Or like, a really good way somebody put it to me once was, I don't know if you guys golf. I do from time to time, very terribly. So,
yeah, same.
Yeah. But there's an optimal grip on the club that you want to have. And if you hold the golf club too tight, you're shanking that thing. If you hold it too loose, you are too. And so it's like, what's the correct grip that you have on that club? And I think about that a lot with leadership and coaching and game management, of like trying to find what's the grip that I need to have on this club tonight. And sometimes maybe it is a little tighter based off of circumstance. Our guys are coming out, they're a little flat, not playing hard. Well, maybe we need to like level up a little bit. But I think some of the really great leaders and coaches, you see it. They kind of have that correct grip on the situation. And that part of that starts with, I think, not being unemotional, but just having that steadiness.
This next clip is from a great interview we did with our good friend Tim Morgan. Call him Timmy Mo. Tim is the boys varsity basketball coach at TAM. He's had a long career as a player and coach in the county. He's a great player in his own right and has been a phenomenal coach and is just a great human. And this was a very fun, meaningful discussion with Tim, who has dealt with tragedy. He tragically lost his wife to illness, which is just devastating. But, you know, Tim has continued to fight on and stay positive and be a great father to his kids and continue to mentor and coach high schoolers, and we love seeing him on the sidelines for TAM. And this was a very fun discussion with him. So enjoy this clip with our friend, the great Tim Morgan.
So we've kind of touched a little bit on your coaching style. I mean, I heard a lot of, defense first and effort, keeping it simple. Why don't you walk us through a typical Coach Tim Morgan practice? Yeah, so they're on time, laced up, ready to go. I don't like starting late.
Yeah.
Depends on time of year. Sometimes if we're the first team in there and I'm getting there or whatever, they should be getting some warm-up shots in, partner up, form shooting into things that I've already told them they need to work on, bigs, working on big stuff or ball hand, whatever it may be, just to get their mind right. And then from there, warm-ups, whatever it may be, we kind of jump into a 1v1 full court almost every day. That, to me, that's huge. One is conditioning. We still run our lines and do all that kind of stuff, but I like conditioning with the ball if you can.
Yeah.
It's a competitiveness. You can guard 1v1 full, you can guard 1v1 in the half court.
Do you go 1v1 live full the whole way, or do you do a kind of like zigzag to half court? And then
Live,
you go
full way in the lines, volleyball line to sideline.
Okay.
And then it's try to score once you get to half court.
That's a Trev drill.
Yeah. Every once in a while, we'll mix it up too. We put a coach at top so they get there. It's them. They work on getting open, right throughs, right? So you can mix up and challenge it. 2v2 sometimes as well.
Yep.
Start there. I like to start defense first, but sometimes you got to flip it.
Yeah.
I want them guarding tired too. You shell drill every day. You mix up the flow, and whether it's guarding on balls, whether it's guarding cuts, and the team runs like a flex type of action. I'm practicing that in shell drill. So that's a daily.
Yep.
4v5 scramble. That's a big one. That
4v5 scramble.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about that one.
So that's 5 offensive, 4 defensive, strong behind the ball.
Yep.
And you're flying around, right? If you can fly and close out and keep guys in front of you with 4 guys, you can definitely do it with 5. And it just builds in that kind of that dog mentality on defense that you need to be able to fly around. And biggest thing, communicate. High school kids have a hard time communicating on the court, talking. It's always one of my biggest struggles. I think a lot of high school coaches would agree with that. Love that one. Toughness drills, rebounding, rebounding.
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
The 4v5, are the 5 stationary, or can the 5 they can move?
Yeah, you can I start stationary until whistle blow or lies.
Exactly. Then it goes live.
Yeah,
we do that one too. It's really good to teach rotations.
Yeah, rotations, and it's like defense is hard. You got to be able to fly around. It's not gonna be perfect. Yeah. Then offensively, it's a lot of skill breakdown. I like a lot of disadvantage stuff. Even in offense, we'll go like sometimes I call it 21-55 because it starts 2-on-1 free throw.
Yep.
Inbound 2-on-1.
3-on-2.
2-on-2, 3-on-2.
Yeah.
Then you can get in your actions, right? And sometimes I do that for 4 minutes because I want them seeing when can we take advantage of a fast break? When do I got to pull it back and get into our flow?
Yeah.
But a lot of skill breakdown. A lot of our shooting drills are hopefully within the offensive stuff. Sometimes you just got to shoot. So I have some fun full court ones that we do. Everything's timed. Everything's points.
Yeah.
A lot of competitiveness. Loser run.
Do you film your practices?
We have the huddle camera.
I
wish I had more time to look at those more, but it's there if I need to. If I notice the guys aren't hustling, I have a bad practice, I'll call it out and show them because film never lies.
Yep. Great.
Yeah, I don't like standing around.
So I went down to Dallas, Texas, man, and I was in the gym early summer. I probably shot 1,000 shots every day on a gun, on a shooting machine, was just in the gym, just playing ball by myself, working out. A few older guys would come back and stuff. But I was in the gym literally every day. That's all I had to do. Nothing else to do. Right? New city, new area. But it's just being a gym rat and being in love with the game.
So did you, because now, I mean, we'll get to where you're doing now because you're a skills trainer, you're an amazing coach. So at that time, you're playing by yourself. Did you did you come up with your own drills? Did people show you what to do? Like, how do you hone your game by yourself in that gym?
Only thing that I did, and I still do to this day, is form shooting. My shooting coach at Marigold only made me focus on a few form shooting drills.
Just get those shots off.
That never left. And when I say these form shooting drills are probably like, they're damn sure pro elite level, they are extremely tough. And I seen it in firsthand that it works because the guy who told me to go to Marigold, his name was Dennis Foster, best shooter I've ever seen in my life, probably 5'8", 5'9". So I got my coach who taught me how to shoot, best shooter, and Dennis Foster, best shooter I've ever seen. He taught Dennis how to shoot. And I'm like, only thing y'all are doing is form shooting from 11 spots on the floor. This is unreal. Okay. So when I watched Dennis, I was in the gym with him for 2 hours watching this man shoot form shots.
And that's the only thing that I ever do for shooting is form shots.
What are the 11 spots?
The 11 spots are block, both blocks, 15-foot, corner, wing, elbows, up top.
Kind of like around the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the objective is you got to make 5 in a row. Can't touch the rim at every spot. If you do, you start over.
Can't touch the rim. Can't touch the rim.
If you get up top, got to be 5 in a row. If you don't make 5 in a row, you go right back to the block.
How long? What's the longest that's ever taken you?
3 hours. One-handed.
Oh, it's one-handed?
One-handed.
All one-handed?
Yep.
And to the top, this is top of the key. So this is
this is like you start on the block, make those 5, go to that 15-foot, and make those 5 corner, then a wing, then an elbow. So you're shooting at a different spot every time, and then you reverse it going around to the other side.
It could take me until my age of Medicare to get through
I'd
that.
still be here. Yeah. You'll focus at some point, like, fuck this, I'm tired of this.
That's
because
amazing.
it's like, and the shooting coach, like, he just sit there and watch you. He rebounds for you for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. You're just sitting there with your feet good, and but it teaches you the same thing over and over.
Yep.
You don't need 2 hands to shoot the ball. The other hand is just a guide hand.
Yep.
A lot of kids want to be like this or
right
pushing through or chucking like this. Like, no. Balance that ball that you're serving a piece of, guide it to the basket.
Yep.
So
while we're on shooting, what about the quick shot release? Like that, just do you have that? So like you only have like a little margin to get the shot off and you're at the same time every time. It sounds like the form shooting doesn't really get at that.
Oh, it does.
It does.
Okay. When you catch the ball, you got to catch the ball in the pocket. Like body positioning, form shooting. If I know I need to get this shot off in a half a second, I know I can't catch and set and shoot.
Right. You just got to
get fire. You got to find the ball in the air, right? And depending on which way the ball is twirling, right? Me, I'm a string shooter, so I got to have the strings a certain way. Yeah. So whenever I see the ball in the air, I try to position my hands to be able to get it, and then I'm catching it in my pocket. So if it's too high, I'm keeping it high. Boom, out.
Yep.
If it's too low, I'm trying to get under the ball, and then right. So it's body positioning and learning how to catch that ball. Like it's a science to it. It's a science.
You're lefty, it looks like.
Lefty. Yeah. I go right when people can stop me going left.
So you end up at Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
Yeah. That was fun.
Discuss that.
So coming out of Richland College in Dallas, Texas, 2005, 2006, I was probably the highest recruit at Richland. At that time, we had an open gym and we had possibly 20 coaches in there. My coach called me into the office, like, every coach in that gym is here for you. I said, fam, we just got here. What do you mean that you got? First of all, this is going too fast. I only played 5 games my senior year, then All-American, and now I'm like in the gym with top recruits. Like, what is going on? Like top schools. UNT was in there, UNV Kings, Texas A&M Corpus Christi was there, Commerce, Kingsville, TCU was there. I had so many schools in the gym watching me play ball. When I came out of the office, he thought I was going to be nervous. Hey, I'm just playing basketball. I'm just here to have fun.
Yeah.
That's the mindset. No expectations, no disappointment. So I get in there, ball out. A coach walked past me, looked at me, shook his head, was like, man, I know you're not coming to my school, but here's my card just in case something happens. I say, man, that's an honor. I appreciate that. I'm very grateful for me to just even say that when I thought I kind of had like a bad day, but it was just me keeping myself humble. And that's what another thing to learn was humility along this path, along this journey. You can be as confident as you want to on the basketball court. Somebody's always going to be better than you out there, somehow, some way. Doesn't matter. And you learn that through experience, but that don't mean you get down on yourself. That means that doesn't mean that you're not good. It means somebody's better than you. I mean, they work their ass off a little bit more. So now you got to go ahead and keep doing the same thing. So for me, I'm very humble, very grateful to be able to play this game of basketball. And my past experiences have taught me that and showed me that.
Okay, Dave, here's the last one. Our second player roundtable at the Hub. This was season 3, episode 9, on a chilly day outside with a rather vocal golden retriever nearby. We had a fun player roundtable with Kitty White from Redwood, Jake Post, also from Redwood, Evan Brewster from Terra Linda, and Abby Bartolo from San Marin. Here, they talk about pregame routines. And then after this clip, that wraps up this Best of 2025 episode. And take it away, Stroke 9.
Awesome. So really excited to have the 4 of you. You're all really great players. You're all different kind of players, which is fun. So we're gonna get into that. But to get right into it, Duffy had this idea of, we're interested. I mean, obviously we're coaches. You guys are players. How do you approach games? So what is your pregame routine? I guess you have, like, as a team, I'm sure you guys have things that you do as a team, but you wake up in the morning, you got a game that night. whoever wants to start, just walk us through your pregame routine.
Go, Jake.
For me, I mean, usually game days are on school days. So I, like the night before, I like to stretch out. It's kind of, I'm very tight. I have a tight body. So that's something big for me. And then like try not to think about it during the school day. But as soon as I get home from school, I eat a good meal, try and eat a good meal. And then I'm big on visualizing. Like it's been preached to me since my baseball days. Like visualize the pitch being a strike, or for me, like basketball, visualizing the ball going through the hoop. So I like to just like sit at home, visualizing, watching like TikTok videos and just thinking about the ball going through the hoop later in the night. And then once I get to the game, just saying hi to all the guys, kind of bringing spirits up, getting everyone excited for the game, and just listening to music is kind of also another big thing for me. So yeah.
Has that changed? So for you, you're a senior now. You're a starter on a really good team. You've been on varsity how many years?
This will be my second year on varsity. Yeah.
Okay, so last year where you got good minutes, you didn't necessarily start every game. Like, do you find it's different this year versus last year?
I think this year it's very different because we have a lot of new players on the team. Like we graduated 9 guys, so we have 9 fresh varsity guys, and also like I'm one of the captains of the team. So last year I didn't have to control energy wise. Like one of the big things for us is like focusing on our energy. Like we went to the Cal UCLA basketball game, upset Cal beat UCLA, but you could tell like the energy of Cal's bench was up and their spirits were high. And that's something I kind of wanted to bring to the team this year. Like like Tom does a great job. Tom Poser, one of our assistant coaches, does a great job like getting the energy going and keep people flowing. So that's something I try and do as well as like another player on the team. So that's been big for me this year. So yeah.
Awesome. Go Kitty.
So I'm a big person on like having good energy. So I like to take a nap before my games if I can. Obviously, again, as Jake said, like we got a lot of games like during the week. So there's not a lot of time for that. But if I have time, I'll go home. I'll take like a good hour-long nap, get my energy up. And then, yeah, as you said, like I try not to think about it too much like during the day. Yeah. But then as soon as I walk into like the gym where we're playing or if I'm at Redwood, like I just immediately like I think about the game. Nothing else on my mind. I try and get focused, remember like the scout that Zach gave us or like any like details about my game, like what I need to do this game. And as I said, like as a captain now this year, like it's about keeping the energy and making sure all the other girls are like ready for the game, how they're feeling about it and stuff like that. Yeah.
Do you guys have like a team? I assume you have a team text thread. Maybe you got one with the coaches on it. You guys, first of all, at Redwood, you have like 8 assistant coaches, but still, it's fine. You got one with the coaches. You got one without the coaches, right? Is the team text thread going during the day on game days?
Yeah, Zach always texts us on the one with the coaches. He texts us a long thing for every day of the week, actually, but especially on game days, he sends the scout out again. Yeah, just like keeps energy high and make sure that everyone's like feeling good. Like sends his best wishes to us at school. And then like little reminders about things that like we're doing, like timing of everything, that we're getting to like the bus on time and school on time. And then on our like, we have a group chat that we've named the Zachless group chat. So it's without the coaches. We also text on that. You know, as a captain, I try to also like, I text individuals if I notice like they had a really good practice or a really bad one and just like checking in on them. Cause I know that's like an important thing to do with our team. Got a lot of girls that are dealing with like new stuff because they're new to like the roles they're playing. And I know that the pressure's like really like high this year. I think we have a lot of expectations. Yeah. So I just like to make sure that they're all doing good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Abby, what you got?
So I'm not a superstitious person, but I'm into like a consistent routine. And this year, our coach Tony introduced us to like visualization and journaling. Yeah. So every game, he gave us all like these little green journals. Every game, before and after we journal, what are you going to do well? How are you going to like make a positive impact for the team? And then obviously like the meal part, like load up on carbs so you have energy. And then when you get to the gym, get to the locker room, keep that energy up. Because as like Kitty said, as a captain, it's your responsibility to make sure everyone's having a good time and playing at their best. So obviously consistent, but just like make sure, like as she said, like if someone else is like not, if you notice their energy might be a little down, like it's your responsibility to bring that up. So just making sure the energy is at a good level for the game.
Do you find that your pregame prep for basketball is similar to lacrosse? Because you're a really good lacrosse player too, or is it totally different?
It's completely the same. Usually I eat the same meals. Lacrosse, the games are a little bit later because it's in the spring. But yeah, usually it's the same. Maybe like some like different parts of my body are sore, so maybe I'll stretch out different parts, but usually same consistency, the same.
Awesome.
Me personally, of course, you know, I got games on school days, so
I just try and get through school, and then once that ends, I'm kind of locked in for the game. I'm not really a big, I don't like eating too much before a game.
Yeah.
So I'm more like a fruit type of guy before games. I don't really like having that heavy feeling with all the carbs in it. And then, I'll probably take a nap if it's an away game, like in the car.
Yeah.
And just, not if I'm driving, of course, but
yeah.
like a far away game.
To be clear, nobody's napping during class and nobody's napping when they're driving. Okay. Good.
Yeah. But and then once I get to the game, usually put in some headphones, play some music to lock me in and just stretch out the parts of my body that need to be stretched out and just kind of get ready mentally and physically.
How does Coach Baker feel about you napping on the bench before the game?
Well, I'm not on the bench much, so.
There you go.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Burke's on his feet. He looks up and gives me a grin and says, "Hey, dude, you too must be from Marin."